Everyone knows Thanos was the biggest threat in the history of the MCU, but Avengers Endgame marked the end of an era and the ultimate defeat of the Mad Titan. Or did it? Yes, we know Thanos is gone for good, but that doesn't mean the Avengers or what's left of them are safe either. Today we're going to talk about how Thanos might still be able to harm our heroes through the legacy he left behind. There was a considerable bit of time when we were forced to be skeptical of any character who seemingly passed away in the MCU. More often than not, it seemed like we got the old switcheroo and they'd suddenly appear totally fine, but those days seem to be behind us. And it's safe to say the God of Thunder did everything right in Avengers Endgame to make sure Thanos is truly gone for good. Sure, it might be possible for a Thanos from another universe to make his way to present-day MCU, but that certainly seems unlikely. Basically, Thanos is as gone and defeated as he can possibly be within the confines of the MCU, and we don't think he's coming back. But that doesn't mean our heroes are safe from him either. Let's not forget that Thanos had no shortage of crazy powerful resources, and he wasn't one to play all of his cards at once. In Endgame, we got to see Thanos wielding that crazy powerful sword that chopped Captain America's shield almost apart like it was nothing. We've seen that shield survive some pretty intense scenarios without so much as a dent, not to mention all the times it's laughed in the face of the laws of physics, yet it couldn't stand up to Thanos' sword. A sword he didn't even bother to bring out at any point during Avengers Infinity War. In Endgame, the Thanos from 2014 was able to travel through time to the year 2023 in order to confront our heroes again, and of course, he brought along some friends. He showed up in the Sanctuary 2 along with present Nebula, past Nebula, and Gamora. This ship is absolutely massive, and it's packed full of dangerous weapons. It has the ability to deploy Leviathans and Necrocrafts, and it's not easy to take down, but don't tell Captain Marvel that because she was able to basically punch it apart in the battle over the Infinity Stones. Keep in mind that that was the ship from the year 2014 that Thanos brought with him through time. The 2023 version of the Sanctuary 2 is likely still out there somewhere. Thanos could have parked it at the Garden when he retired there after the decimation, or it could be floating around somewhere in space. But it still exists. And it's probably safely away from Captain Marvel's mighty fists, at least for now. Thanos might be gone, but it's possible he still has allies out there. After all, Thanos didn't work alone. We've witnessed the fall of Ronan and the destruction of the Black Order, but it seems likely that Thanos would have had other allies. And if he didn't go full throttle with his weapons back in Infinity War, then it follows that he may have not deployed all of his sentient weapons at once either. In fact, one of the children of Thanos from the comic books hasn't been spotted in the MCU yet, and she's arguably the most powerful one. We know Thanos raised all of his children to be incredible warriors and showed no mercy to them. Some, like Gamora and Nebula, rebelled against him, but others remained loyal. In the MCU, we learned those loyal to Thanos were Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Cull Obsidian, and Ebony Maw. They exist in the comic books as well, except Cull Obsidian goes by the name Black Dwarf, and the whole Black Order is known as Cull Obsidian. It's confusing, we know, but the comics also contain a character named Supergiant, and we haven't seen them introduced into the MCU yet. So who's Supergiant, and just how super and giant are they? Well, sorry to disappoint, but Supergiant gets her name from an ultra-bright type of star. Supergiant has telekinetic powers and can devour the intellect of others. To give you an idea of just how mighty she is, consider that in the comic book she destroys the X-Men and the Jean Grey School. She's definitely not someone you want to go up against, and many fans were surprised when she didn't show up in Avengers Infinity War or Endgame. But it's possible that Marvel Studios was waiting for the right time to introduce her. After all, we know they set up Captain Marvel to be the most powerful superhero yet, and when you have more powerful heroes, you're going to need more powerful villains for them to fight against. If Captain Marvel can punch a spaceship apart, just imagine what she can do to a soft, squishy human. Supergiant, though, is immune to nearly all types of physical damage. She can also control the minds of others and maintain this control over multiple victims simultaneously. Her unpredictable nature could easily be used to explain why we didn't see Thanos calling upon her at any point. He was always confident in his ability to triumph in battle, and when he retired, he was beyond caring what happened to him since he had succeeded. But with Thanos gone, it's possible Supergiant could emerge and seek revenge against those who led to his destruction. Not only is Supergiant super dangerous on her own, but if she has access to the Sanctuary 2 and all of its resources, then our heroes could be in even bigger trouble. Let's not forget that the number of active heroes on Earth is also at an all-time low. In Endgame, we lost Tony Stark and Natasha Romanoff, and although he's still alive, Steve Rogers is retired. In Spider-Man Far From Home, we learned that heroes like Captain Marvel and Thor are indisposed when it comes to fighting crime on our humble planet. Even if Peter Parker does work while on vacation, the world is still seriously lacking in protection. How much destruction would be caused if an ultra-powerful Black Order member showed up in Thanos' spaceship? Although Steve Rogers retired, he did manage to get a version of his shield into the hands of his successor, Sam Wilson. Captain America's shield is not only an icon, it's an exceptionally powerful weapon. The thing is, as we mentioned earlier, it's clearly not as powerful as Thanos' sword, since it cut right through Cap's Vibranium shield. So it'd undoubtedly be effective against pretty much anything Earth-based heroes could throw at it. In the Avengers, we even saw the shield take on a mighty strike from Mjolnir and remain in one piece, much to Thor's dismay. We know Thanos is one of the most powerful characters around, even without any weapons or armor. Only those with incredible superhuman abilities like Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch have been shown to even hold their own against him. Even the Incredible Hulk was no match for Thanos when he encountered him aboard the Asgardian ship in Infinity War. But of course, Thanos augments his already considerable physical abilities with weapons and armor, and you know he's only going for top-tier equipment. His armor allows him to withstand lightning bolts rained down on him from Thor, and his sword allows him to effortlessly cut down his enemies. Even if it was someone other than Thanos swinging it around, we still wouldn't want to be anywhere near it. Just consider how it stacks up to the other legendary MCU weapons, Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. For a long time, Mjolnir was the otherworldly weapon in the MCU, and Stormbreaker is even more powerful. Forged in Nidavellir, Stormbreaker was supposed to be the most powerful weapon ever created. It can summon the Bifrost and resist blasts from the Infinity Stones, but it couldn't destroy Thanos' sword. In Endgame, Thanos used it to block strikes from Stormbreaker and eventually knocked it aside. If Stormbreaker is the most powerful weapon ever created in Nidavellir, then it means Thanos' sword must have been forged elsewhere. But where could he have acquired such a formidable weapon? Marvel Studios has kind of glossed over the origin story of Thanos, which is a bummer because it gives a lot of insight into his character and motivations. In the comic books, we learn Thanos comes from Titan and was one of the Eternals. Those beings started out like early humans, but were given amazing powers by the Celestials. Although we haven't learned anything about the Eternals in the MCU so far, that's going to change. Marvel Studios has been talking about making a movie based on the Eternals and has signed director Chloe Zhao onto the project, so it's possible we'll learn more about Thanos and his people in the not-too-distant future. However, we've heard about the Celestials before. In Guardians of the Galaxy, we learned about the history of the Infinity Stones and that a Celestial named Eson the Searcher was once in possession of the Power Stone. As you could probably guess, he didn't exactly have the best intentions and promptly used it to obliterate a planet. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 introduced us to a living Celestial, Peter Quill's deadbeat dad, Ego, and the movie also did a good job of demonstrating just how powerful and ruthless the Celestials are capable of being. If Thanos did indeed have any access to the legacy of the Celestials, then it could explain some of the crazy powerful objects he managed to acquire, including his sword. Some fans believe this weapon might have been celestial in origin, which would make a lot of sense. We all know Thanos has been focused on obtaining the Infinity Stones and causing the decimation, and the Celestials were once masters of those stones. Thanos clearly made it his mission to learn everything possible about the Infinity Stones in order to track them down and wield them effectively. If that's the case, then in order to be thorough, he would have had to research the Celestials extensively as well. We know Thanos went through a lot to track down the Infinity Stones, and at one point had managed to acquire the Mind Stone. But we don't really know what exactly Thanos did in order to get his hands on the Mind Stone and where that journey took him. If he was following in the footsteps of the Celestials, then it's possible he came upon something they had developed. Plus, if Thanos managed to find one ultra-powerful celestial artifact that we know of at some point prior to 2014, who knows what he had collected by the time Infinity War took place? Since he had the Infinity Gauntlet and most of the Infinity Stones, he didn't even bother to bring this sword out when facing our heroes. It's possible he has a whole treasure trove of mighty celestial relics just sitting there on his ship. If Captain Marvel isn't around to punch it to smithereens again, Thanos' ship could do a ton of damage. Would the heroes who are active in the MCU right now be able to stop it? We'd love to see Supergiant join the MCU at this point. And if she had access to the Sanctuary too, then she'd be even more formidable. Heck, even if we never see Supergiant, someone else could stumble upon Thanos' ship and use it for a nefarious purpose, which could put our heroes in serious danger. Even though Thanos himself is gone, the assets he collected during his life are still around, and could be exceptionally dangerous if they fell into the wrong hands. So, what do you think about the idea that Thanos' legacy could end up living on in a terrible way? Is he still a threat to our heroes? Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and then click on that subscribe button for more videos from us here at CBR. Bye for now.